The Diamondbacks crush another left-handed pitcher in a big win over the Cardinals, but the real question is why everything flips against righties and what it means for everything else they're trying to beat this season.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Diamondbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, George Lund, and this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. Now, the Diamondbacks coming off a big win over the Cardinals. They went 9-4. They at least split the series, trying to take the series tomorrow. We've talked about in past episodes how big this stretch is for the Diamondbacks, being that these are two contenders, top of the National League and American League, top of the wild card standings with the Cardinals and the Tampa Bay Rays in back-to-back series, both on the road right before the All-Star break. I think this break could really determine how the Diamondbacks attack the trade deadline. And in that, I think it makes how they attack the second half. They have so many aging players. They've gone towards this youth movement. We'll talk about Tommy Troy. We'll talk about LuJames Groover. A few of those guys. We'll talk about a starter who made his major league debut. For the Diamondbacks today, we'll talk about all the youth players, and I think that's really important because I think if the Diamondbacks struggle in this stretch, we could see a full youth movement in the second half of the season. Just a massive stretch, and I know a lot of people may not think that way because, hey, it's the end of June right now. How big could this stretch really be? Well, it retains a lot to the trade deadline, and if they could become sellers, if they're buyers, if there's a middle ground, whatever the case is, Diamondbacks pull off a nice win against the Cardinals. I was really happy. Any day the Diamondbacks scored 9 runs, it was the third time this season every player in the Diamondbacks order had a hit collectively, so the entire starting lineup. So for a team that struggled offensively, it was good to see them get off the ground again. And for me, something that I've noticed as of recently is when the Diamondbacks are really struggling to get some offense going, they really break through against left-handed pitching. Now, I dug into the stats about how good they are against left-handed pitching because obviously we know about Corbin Carroll. He has these extreme splits where he's hitting about 390 against left-handed pitching, and he's only hitting about 220 against right-handed pitching, which is definitely a really weird thing for how good Corbin Carroll is. And he still has about an 800 OPS against right-handed pitching, but the difference is pretty drastic, and it has been this year. Well, looking at their team stats, and this isn't updated after the game, recording this right after the game, but it's a later game, so I couldn't wait for them to update. But entering the game versus left-handed pitching, and this is throughout baseball, the Diamondbacks are 4th in MLB in WRC+. They're 3rd in the MLB in average at 267. They're 3rd in slug at 432, and they have the best strikeout rate in baseball. They only strike out 16.4% of the time against left-handed pitching. They've done a really nice job as of recently. Reed Detmers did get to them when they faced the Angels at home, but that was sort of an outlier. Obviously, Detmers is having a fantastic season. He's probably one of the more sought-after trade deadline pieces right now, although I think the Angels do not want to deal him because he does have that young value and he's not making a ton of money, so why would you? But the Angels make moves like that all the time, so it wouldn't surprise me if they still got rid of him. But on the mound for the Cardinals today was Matthew Liberatore, a bit of a younger pitcher trying to find his groove, and he hasn't been great as of recently, and the Diamondbacks really used that to their advantage, got going offensively when they've had a slower offensive series. Obviously, the first game they lost by 1 run, the second game they won by 1 run, and they've both been kind of low-scoring affairs, so the Diamondbacks got the offense going so they didn't have to worry about a close game with the bullpen as Paul Sewald nearly blew game 2, but they stuck along. But a 6-run 4th inning, 7 hits, 3 extra base hits, 2 home runs, 1 back-to-back by LuJames Groover, and then Ketel Marte. Some of the big news with LuJames Groover is that potentially Max Kepler could be coming up soon, and I'll talk about a little later about what you can expect from Max Kepler, why he's coming in at the perfect time. And I think it's really interesting because there's a chance that Pavin Smith could be DFA'd unless they send down LuJames Groover. Now, do they like Pavin Smith that much that they'll send LuJames Groover down because he does have options? And it's not like LuJames Groover has been lighting up the world. I think his at-bats have gotten exponentially better, and you see it with the home run today. He had 2 walks. So I think it was a really big day for people who want Pavin Smith DFA'd because maybe LuJames Groover sticks around for a little while longer and they can have those two coincide. And I think going towards that youth movement, letting LuJames Groover sort of develop, I think that's a good thing. I don't want to give up on Pavin Smith, but it's getting to a point where, Pavin Smith wasn't in the lineup today and had one of their best offensive showings in a few weeks now. Well, they had a few nice games against the Twins and the Angels, but for the most part, Pavin Smith has been a big drag in the lineup, especially when you have your DH and your first baseman. You expect those two positions to be some of your best hitters in your lineup, and Pavin Smith's really dragged it down. Carlos Santana also DFA'd yesterday, which was big news. He's just struggled a lot down in AAA, so what would be the point of bringing him up and letting somebody else go in turn for him? When he's 40 years old, he's coming off the 60-day IL. There's not a whole lot of reasons to believe he's going to come up and be productive when he wasn't productive at the beginning of the season. So they let him go. The smart move, in my opinion, I said a little bit on Twitter, I think that was one of the worst moves they made over the offseason, because now it just leaves a giant hole at first base for them. But talking in specific about this game today, got a little off topic, but want to talk about how good they've been against left-handed pitching. Like I mentioned today, Ketel Marte, LuJames Groover went back-to-back. Ildemaro Vargas had a 2-run double. Tommy Troy had an RBI single. A lot of those guys have pretty extreme reverse splits, right-handed against left-handed. It's been a big reason why they've been so good against left-handed pitching and been pretty poor against right-handed pitching. We'll talk about that in a little bit, sort of about these splits in particular. But entering the night, Tommy Troy had a 1.404 OPS against left-handed pitching in 17 plate appearances. So a short sample size, but he's been their killer against left-handed pitching since he's coming up. Corbin Carroll, 1.123 OPS against left-handed pitching. That's in 106 plate appearances. Ketel Marte, 0.874 OPS, 96 plate appearances. And Ildemaro Vargas, 842 OPS, 86 plate appearances. I'm glad that Ildemaro Vargas has kind of gotten back to, I wouldn't say he's back to where he was in April, but there was a period in time in about a month and a half stretch where he was one of the worst hitters in baseball. So I think for him in particular to have Torey Lovullo select and pick and choose which days he enters the lineup, and those in particular being against left-handed pitching, can get his confidence back a little bit, because he would be a welcomed addition if he can continue to be a consistent part of the offense where he hasn't been over the last month or so. But even in his poor times and some of his bad stretches, he's still been really good for them against left-handed pitching as a switch hitter. So it's been really nice, especially him being able to play first. He can play a little second, so he can kind of do everything. But those are the four guys that stand out the most in terms of how good they've been against left-handed pitching. For Tommy Troy in particular, he's played a lot more recently in an everyday situation because Jordan Lawler's out. So it's nice to see him continue to have success against lefties, gives him a spot every day, even when maybe he's not going to be an everyday guy. Maybe Lawler comes back, but he's starting to figure it out a little more against right-handed pitching. He had a double and a homer in these last 2 days against right-handed pitching. So definitely seeing the success start to build up. But Carroll in particular has just been fantastic against left-handed pitching. It's sort of ridiculous how good he's been. Some of the stats recently, that he's one of, I think, 4 players since 2005, maybe it was, to have an over 390 batting average against left-handed pitching in a certain amount of plate appearances. Some of those names were Ichiro Suzuki, David Ortiz, and Barry Bonds, that being left on left. So sort of how extreme that platoon is. That's the hardest platoon in baseball, that left on left. So for Carroll to do what he's doing, and I talked about him in a previous episode, why he's been so good at that, kind of going off the plate so he can get to those inside pitches that left-handers like to throw to him, has been really positive for him. And he's trailing only Paul Goldschmidt, who has a 237 WRC plus. I saw a lot of people complaining online today because he hit another homer off Tarek Skubal that, if only we had Paul Goldschmidt, we should have got him in the offseason. I don't really know. Would he have wanted to come back to Arizona instead of stay in New York where he was? If there was a Paul Goldschmidt reunion to be had, it would have been a few years ago when he left the Cardinals. I feel like he might have been pretty dead set on returning to the Yankees, because why wouldn't you want to contend for a World Series? And the Yankees were really close to that again last season. So I'm not too sure if their mutual interest was there. I certainly agree with going with anybody else than Carlos Santana. I definitely sighed and groaned in the offseason when I saw them sign Santana and knowing that was going to be their first baseman coming into the year. But I'm not too stressed out about how good Goldschmidt been. He's always had really nice reverse splits. And the team splits and the records in particular tell the story. They're 15-6 versus left-handed starters and just 25-33 versus right-handed starters. And as usual, they're 33-13 when scoring 4+ runs and 7-26 when scoring 3 runs or fewer. So you can easily translate that. When the offense is going, they're winning games, and when they're scoring runs, they're winning games. So there's an obvious translation there to how good they've been against left-handed starters. When we come back, I'm going to go to break really quick, and we're going to talk about how bad they've been against right-handed pitching. So we've talked a little bit about what's been the motor for this team, especially offensively, when they have been going. But what's been halting them is their success against right-handed pitching. And we'll talk a little bit about that after the break. ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with licensed healthcare providers online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and HIMS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. When something is already uncomfortable to talk about, the last thing you want is a complicated process. Having the ability to start online from home makes taking that first step feel much more manageable. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedon. That's hims.com/lockedonmlb for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonmlb. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is the generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. HIMS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match feels like it has potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now, FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked in every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals mean more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. That's what I love about these tournaments. You can turn on a match between teams you don't normally follow, and suddenly one goal changes everything. The tension builds so quickly that you're invested before you even realize it. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. Before we get to our next topic, I want to tell you a little bit about the Everydayers Club. Get your daily Diamondbacks coverage completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedondiamondbacks.supercast.com to claim your free trial. Now, we've talked a little bit about how successful they are against left-handed pitching. Corbin Carroll's had a fantastic season. The group as a whole seems to have success and is translated to wins against those left-handed starters. Even the bullpen pieces, Tommy Troy's been a great addition. When Ryan Waldschmidt was up, he was really good. They had a lot of success against left-handed pitching again today. It's usually where it gets their offense rolling, and it's translated to wins. All the statistics back it up. When they score a lot of runs, that's usually led to wins because their bullpen has been so good, and they've usually gotten good starts out of some pitchers in particular, some not so much. But the real problem with this team right now is against right-handed pitching. 75% of pitchers in Major League Baseball are right-handed. So they can have as much success against left-handed pitching as they want, but if they're not translating against right-handed pitching, or they're not at least league average against right-handed pitching, they're going to struggle offensively, because 4 out of the 5 days a week, you're likely going to see a right-handed starter. Their MLB ranks against right-handed pitching 29th in WRC plus 85, 28th in average 226. They're last in slugging at 364, and they're last in total homers at 48. It's been a real issue for this team. Even Corbin Carroll, who has an 1100 OPS against left-handed pitching, he has a 900 OPS overall. He only has about a 223 average against right-handed pitching. He has an 804 OPS, but that's because some of the homers have come against right-handed pitching. But overall, the average on this team is dwindling down. And there's a lot of players right now that their splits are just too extreme. Going down the list, looking at OPS versus right-handed pitching. Pavin Smith, who hasn't been good against left-handers or right-handers, but he is their every other day DH or first baseman. So he's in the lineup a lot. He's gotten a lot of plate appearances. He's a 513 OPS. Tommy Troy, 542 OPS, although we'll talk about him in a little bit. He's been better as of late, and he's a player that's developing and getting better against right-handed pitching. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., he's their everyday left fielder, 578 OPS against left-handed hitters. Ryan Waldschmidt got a good bit of time while he was up, 594 OPS. Ildemaro Vargas, 630 OPS, and that's despite the crazy April that he had. Jose Fernandez, when he was up, he had a 680 OPS versus right-handed pitching. Nolan Arenado was a 712 OPS against right-handed pitching, and Ketel Marte has a 728 OPS against right-handed pitching. Obviously, the story with him throughout his entire career is that he's been better against left-handed pitching, so it's not entirely surprising, but still, that's the side of the plate that he's going to see most, so you'd like to see him get that up a little bit. And then I mentioned Corbin Carroll, a 223 average against right-handed pitching. For how good he's been against lefties, you would never guess that his splits have been that extreme. And that kind of gets me to my next point with how much they've struggled against right-handed pitching. Now, there are some guys in general that just need to turn their seasons around. Pavin Smith, Lourdes Gurriel, and that's not just talking about right-handed pitching, how they, what their splits are. Those are guys that just need to perform better, period. But this lineup right now desperately needs another left-handed bat. Now, if Mike Hazen is still thinking about buying at the trade deadline, that has to be priority number one. I know a lot of people have talked about, well, they need a starter. They could need more help in the bullpen. They need just power in general. I've seen Christian Walker be thrown out there, and even I suggested that Christian Walker could be a really nice piece for the Diamondbacks. Bringing him back, sort of a reunion. It would be really cool if they brought him back. He fixes a lot of needs on the team right now. Like I mentioned, the slug against right-handed pitching hasn't been all that good. Christian Walker's good from both sides of the plate, so that would fix those issues. But I just think they need a left-handed bat, period. And we'll talk about Max Kepler in a little bit right after this, kind of what he brings, and at least that's a new option that they could be looking at. But that's kind of why I mentioned on Twitter today that I think Joc Peterson could just be a fantastic addition to this team. I mean, he has an 120 WRC plus on the season. He had one of his best years of his entire career with the Diamondbacks a few years ago in 2024. He's about as platoon as it gets in terms of just he's a player that goes through those pretty extreme splits where he's just not all that good against left-handed pitching, but they don't need him to be good against left-handed pitching because every player on the Diamondbacks roster right now is good against left-handed pitching. He's had a really nice bounce back year with the Rangers, obviously signed that multi-year deal with the Rangers after leaving the Diamondbacks. But he's had a much better year, and I think he'd be the perfect addition for this team right now, where he fits in maybe an everyday DH spot, or maybe not every day, but at least against right-handed pitching, and that's what they're going to see a lot, so it's almost every day. He can play a little outfield, he can play a little first base, whatever you need him to do, but I think he's the perfect addition to this team. Now, are the Rangers going to be sellers? I'm not too sure yet. A lot of the American League has been pretty bad this year. I think there's only 2 or 3 teams in the American League right now that actually have a plus run differential. The Yankees blowing all those teams out of the water. So the American League has been pretty poor overall. So I'm not too sure. I know the Rangers are a few games under 500, but they may still feel like they can contend for a wild card spot right now. Obviously, there's still plenty of talent on that team. And when you have Jacob deGrom, you have Corey Seager, you have a few of these players on the team, you probably always feel like you can contend. They got Mackenzie Gore in the offseason, but point being, that just feels like a perfect fit for the Diamondbacks. He was here a few years ago, had a really nice year with them. Bring a guy like that back. He brings a lot of oomph to the lineup, and he's just a great vibe to have in overall. Maybe the question with him is the contract, is the salary work? He's making $18 million this year, and he has a mutual option for his contract next season. So I think the Diamondbacks may be looking to shed a bit of money right now. That's kind of been the consensus with how much money they spent in terms of their rotation. And a lot of those guys aren't even playing for them right now. I mean, they shed out $40 million to Merrill Kelly and $20 million to Zach Gallen over the offseason. So it's really tough with what they do at the trade deadline because there's so many needs on this team, and it still feels like they can be competitive just with what so much they're going to get back throughout the year, especially in September with some of their injuries. And then you look at the roster and you're like, this isn't a bad roster. But the money is really tough because you don't want to throw away your future. You need your future. There's so many old players in this team that are going to be gone in a few years, and the Diamondbacks, they have a good farm system. I think it's underrated, but it's definitely not top bottom, one of the best in baseball. So they need their future right now. They need the Tommy Troys, they need the Ryan Waldschmidts, and that's going to get you some of those cheaper players. Whereas you can spend less prospects to get a guy that's older, that's making a bit more money. But I don't know if the Diamondbacks are going to want to spend that kind of money to get like a Michael Walker or a Seth Lugo to fill up the rotation, even though they're on multi-year deals making a lot of money, or a Joc Peterson. So it's a little concerning right now. I'm not too sure what the Diamondbacks are going to do at the deadline, if they're willing to pick up a contract like that. But I think when I was looking at these splits, that instantly came to mind how great of an addition Joc Peterson would be to this team. And I think there's plenty of options that you can go through in terms of talking about players that hit against right-handed pitching excel and just give them a little more oomph in their lineup right now, because they need it. And speaking on that, they did make a few moves to try to add another left-handed bat that can hit against right-handed pitching, and one of those is Max Kepler. Now, Max Kepler is supposed to return Friday. I saw some reports that he could return Thursday for that decider against St. Louis to see if they can win that series there. So instantly, there's a left-handed bat that you add. I believe it's just something new. The Diamondbacks need something new in the lineup right now. The lineup at times has gone a little stagnant. Geraldo Perdomo has got a little stagnant. Ketel Marte's been great as of recently. Corbin Carroll's been great recently. Troy's been a nice addition to the everyday lineup. There's a few guys that have played better as of late for the most part. Arenado is still struggling. Pavin Smith is still struggling. Lourdes Gurriel is still struggling. So there's a few guys that are really struggling and holding down the lineup right now. So Max Kepler is at least something new. Now, was I super enthused with the signing of a player that's had a 700 OPS in the last 2 seasons? No, I wasn't. But right now, I just think a need for a left-handed bat. You'll take a 700 OPS if it means that it's going to replace Lourdes Gurriel, who has a 500 OPS some days in the lineup. So looking at some of his AAA stats, he's actually been great down in AAA. He went 10 for 30, 2 homers, 333 average, and a 1.041 OPS. He's definitely not going to have that up at the big leagues, but it is sort of incredible looking at how different the AAA is and the major leagues, kind of the skill gap between the two. Even though it is just one jump up there is just such a drastic difference. The Diamondbacks got rid of Luis Urias, who they traded to the Blue Jays a few weeks ago. Luis Urias was hitting 360 at AAA with about 120 WRC plus, and the Diamondbacks opted to trade him to the Blue Jays. Now, he hit a homer yesterday. I went on Twitter and said the Diamondbacks should have kept him around, because you never know when you're going to need a player like that. I think there's a few players that Luis Urias could replace right now in the lineup, give them a little bit of a spark. But I think that also points to the fact that they know what the skill gap is, and they know Luis Urias wouldn't be able to post those stats up in the major leagues. But at least you get Max Kepler back in 2025. He had a 704 OPS against right-handed pitching, and 16 of his 18 homers came against right-handed pitching. And at that point, that's a huge upgrade over what Arizona's been giving. If he can give you a few homers every so weeks, you'll take that in the lineup. They just need some kind of power boost for a team among the bottom in the league in home runs right now. So I think Max Kepler's a fun addition. He had a 680 OPS using performance enhancing drugs last year. So does it really get worse than that? Who knows? We'll have to see. I hope not. It's a little scary that he was that bad on performance enhancing drugs, but all performance enhancing drugs come in all shapes and sizes. So maybe it really wasn't helping him hit the baseball or recover it the way that you think about Barry Bonds was taking in performance enhancing drugs. We'll have to see. Hopefully it comes up Thursday, Friday. We'll see what Max Kepler has in store for the Diamondbacks. Hopefully it's some good. Hopefully it adds some spark to the lineup. Maybe he can continue on what he's doing in the minor leagues right now. That would be really fun if they could get another important addition to the lineup. But all in all, I still think there is a dire need for a left-handed bat, whether Max Kepler comes up and is any good at all. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone work together towards the same goal. And that's true in sports just like it is business. Think about the Corbin Carroll extension just a few years ago. One thing that really stands out is just how the organizations get everyone pulling in the same direction with the decision. It wasn't just one great player or coach. It was a coordinated effort across the entire organization that made it successful. Great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Workplace chaos can show up fast. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. Think about the Michael Soroka signing for the Diamondbacks in the offseason. Some of the best moves organizations make aren't always the splashiest ones. Sometimes it's finding the person who fits exactly what the team needs at the right moment. That's what stood out to me here, and it's the same idea behind Indeed Sponsored Jobs, helping connect organizations with candidates who are the right fit from the start. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through all the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Welcome back. So we talked about how some of those extreme splits have both benefited the Diamondbacks and harmed them all at the same time. We saw today how the left-handed splits have benefited them in the win today, how over the course of the season they played their best baseball against left-handed pitching. It's caused these extreme splits to harm their offense at times. But in particular today, they were great against Matthew Liberatore. They had a great game plan. They attacked him with a big inning in the fourth inning, scoring 6 runs there. And a big part of this series in particular, why they won 2 out of the last 3 against the Cardinals, has been Tommy Troy. He had a double today, he had an RBI single, and he had a homer against Ryan Stanek. And talking about him in particular, we talked about his extreme splits, but you can already see the development with him. He had a homer against Ryan Stanek, right-handed pitcher, and today he had an RBI double to the opposite field gap. So he has these drastic splits where he has a 1,400 OPS against left-handed pitching. He had an RBI single against Liberatore today, but we're already seeing that improvement against right-handed pitching. And it was interesting when he was around and when Ryan Walchmut got called down, there was definitely an opportunity for the Diamondbacks to send down Troy instead of Walchmut. Walchmut had been good in the start of when he got called up originally. Troy really hadn't shown length as of yet. He hadn't shown consistency over a long period of time, but they trusted that his at-bats were improving, and they've continued to improve week over week, and he's become a mainstay in the lineup. Now, obviously, Jordan Lawler gets hurt, so it gives him more of an opportunity in that, but I think he might have found himself an everyday role even if Lawler were around. Now, speaking on his stats, 244 average, 326 on base percentage, 415 slug. He has a 741 OPS, 106 WRC plus, about 6 over the league average of 100. Plate discipline remains encouraging, 11% walk rate, 21% K rate. Those aren't wild numbers, but also as a rookie, you're seeing the improvement. You're seeing the at-bats improve. He's not chasing a ton out of the zone. The important takeaway, nothing about his statistics scream luck. The underlying numbers match the production, and Troy simply looks like a legitimate major leaguer. He's been great, and I think he's their number 4 overall prospect, and I've talked so much about the youth movement and how I believe they should be giving a lot of these guys more opportunities than they're already getting. That's why it would frustrate me so much if tomorrow we found out that as Max Kepler comes up, LuJames Groover was called down and Pavin Smith sticks around on this team, because at the ripe age of 30 and his contract is expiring in the offseason, I mean, is he going to figure it out in the next couple of months and help them? But LuJames Groover is growing every single day. He had a homer today. He had 2 walks. He's not putting up blazing numbers, but again, he's their number 10 overall prospect. That's a guy you hope is a part of your future. And I want to see him grow at the major league level, go through those struggles. And Tommy Troy has gone through his struggles so far, and so far he's coming out of it a better player. So to see Troy succeed, obviously, hopefully he's a big part of their future going forward. Lourdes Gurriel, his contract is up after this season, so maybe he could be an everyday starter next year. And a big thing for Troy, like we talked about, is those extreme splits, getting better against right-handed pitching. That's his key to be an everyday player and not just be another platoon guy in the lineup when they faced a lefty. But so far, I've loved what I've seen with Tommy Troy. I think he's great. He's got a lot of pop. He's 5'9", and he had a 440-foot homer against Ryan Stanek the other day. I saw somebody on Twitter like, the balls must be juiced because who's this random guy hitting a 440-foot homer? No, that's just Tommy Troy. He's got a lot of strength for his size. I tweeted that too. It's pretty incredible. It must be a pretty big guy in the gym. So so far so good with Tommy Troy. I thought I'd touch on him a little bit and not overshadow what's been a great great addition to the offense and a big reason why they've turned it around despite some guys really struggling at the plate. Nolan Arenado is definitely not in the best stretch of his career so far. But talking about Tommy Troy, I want to talk about another youngster. I love talking about young guys on here because it is the future of this team. They're transitioning away from this era, right? And the Waldschmidts, the LuJames Groovers, the Tommy Troys, they're making noise on this team to say that they want to compete for spots. And it's really nice to see Mitch Bratt is the Diamondbacks number 14 overall prospect, obviously with all the injuries that they've gone through. Ryan Nelson, Soroka, Burns has obviously been out for a good amount of time. They need some guys to step up. Jose Cabrera stepped up in his first career outing, and now you see Mitch Bratt. They got him last year in the Merrill Kelly deal, so already getting some value out of that deal. And then, of course, they bring Kelly back in the offseason, so kind of a good trade-off. But I loved what I saw from Mitch Bratt. Now, he only went 3 innings, and I saw someone on Twitter kind of explain this, and I think it was good to explain it of why did Mitch Bratt only pitch 3 innings? They need a starter right now. He was rolling, and people have been very critical of Torey Lovullo in particular about taking some guys out earlier than they needed to be. But why was Mitch Bratt removed after 54 pitches? He's coming off an injury scare. He last pitched June 17th through 48 pitches, and before that, he pitched May 29th through 39 pitches. He's ramping back up. This has nothing to do with Torey. People are very quick to throw shots at Torey and kind of how he manages his team, and I think for the most part, he's handled the pitching pretty well this year. Again, going back to Mitch Bratt, had another good outing, consistently threw strikes, showed confidence in all 4 pitches, and looked far more polished than most 22-year-olds making their debut. 24 called strike whiff percentage, 77% first pitch rate. The slider was good. That was the put-away pitch, 87 miles per hour, 50% called strike whiff rate, had a 67% whiff rate, so that 4 out of, I believe, the 6 swings were whiffs. So the slider was his best pitch and already looks capable of missing bats consistently against right-handed hitters. Here's a 4-pitch mix, sinker, fastball, the sweeper, and the slider. The slider definitely looked like the best pitch out of the bunch, but I think everything played off each other well. We've talked about that sweeper in past episodes, how it's kind of taking over baseball, but his final line, 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He definitely came into this outing with the reputation of being a pitch to contact guy. So to see him get as much whiff as he did was definitely positive going forward. Only gives up 1 earned run through 3 innings, but there was some traffic, and I thought his off-speed pitches played a lot better than his fastball did. Of course, he had that sinker, but he didn't throw the sinker all that much. But overall, I mean, I'm still impressed with him. He looked like a polished command first lefty with advanced feel for pitching. The fastball may limit his ceiling, but the command in the secondary and arsenal give him a real chance to remain in a major league rotation. The Diamondbacks still need plenty of innings out of their pitchers, so he may be a guy that's sort of an opener style for the Diamondbacks going forward, and hopefully sticks around, or he can at least make a few starts, learn from those mistakes the same way that Ryan Waldschmidt learned from his mistakes when he was up in the big leagues, and he can go down to AAA and learn from them. But thank you for tuning in today to Locked On Diamondbacks. I want to talk about the bullpen next episode, how this bullpen was built, the moves that Mike Hazen did to acquire a lot of these guys, bringing back Taylor Clark, Paul Sewald. I want to talk about Ketel Marte, the bounce back season, or sorry, not bounce back season, but bounce back stretch that he's had as of recently. He has over 1,000 OPS over the last 7 days. He's been great. Make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you get all the latest episodes. Subscribe, follow me at GLund Media on X. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Diamondbacks ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedondiamondbacks.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast YouTube channel. On audio for your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB. Thank you guys again for listening. Peace out.